So tell me about M11. Your thoughts, design stories, goals that you had with it.
So M11 this is the first time that we've ever had a core set come out a year after one just came out. So this is kind of the culmination of the big picture plan, was to make sure there's a core set out every year, so that if you're new, you can always be pointed at the core set. And I mean, that was kind of the goal, doing them when we were doing them every 2 years, and we just said, well, it'll stay on the shelf and it's still in standard. But in reality, what happened is stores like Walmart and Target wouldn't carry it for 2 years. They would sell it when it first came out, 7th edition, and then they wouldn't have it on the shelf anymore. And then tournament players would get bored of it, and shop owners would only have a little bit of it on hand, and a new player would come in, and no one would tell them to buy that, because it's not the new thing. It's a year and a half old. So you'd end up being told to buy Scourge or Fifth Dawn or something as the first set. And then that was, those sets weren't built for that audience. So we gotta have to have a core set every year. We figured after Eventide kind of went through its life cycle of only 15 months, and Figure of Destiny was certainly played in tournaments enough that I don't think people said that thing wasn't around long enough. No, I think Figure of Destiny was around long enough. So 15 months we felt like was a fine length of time for a set to be in standard. So that made us okay with having a core set come out every year. And so the challenge now is, can we have 50% new cards or close to it, and have it still feel like Resident Fantasy, have it still feel like baseline normal Magic, and still be exciting to the tournament player, and can we iterate that every single year? And I think M11 does a great job of doing that.
You have, it appears, well, I guess you're not sort of in the creative, so I want to ask things about, it's like Jace's something, Chandra's something.
Those were definitely designed as part of the set design. Doug Beyer was on the design team. He's the guy that writes our flavor column, and he's quite a capable card designer. And I don't know if the idea came from him necessarily, or it might have come from Mark Globus or someone else on the design team. Just like, let's push the Planeswalkers, down in rarity, so that you know about them just from opening cards, even if you don't actually open the card. Jace. We know we can overdo that kind of thing, like we do with the Weatherlight crew. Where it's Gerard's Command and Gerard's Verdict and Sisei's Ring and Sisei's Ingenuity and all this stuff. It's just like, okay, these dudes are everywhere, and like, how am I casting a spell called Tangarth's Glare? Like, how is that a spell? It just seems like it's, ridiculous. So we wanted to just find the right amount, so we have a common and an uncommon for each Planeswalker. The common ties into the uncommon. The uncommon also ties into what the Planeswalker does, so it's pretty cool if you build a deck that has Jace and Jace's Erasure and Jace's Ingenuity, that they'll all combo together somehow. And just from the forum chatter, it seems to be going over pretty well. Like, no, we're not trying to be another game where it's Yugi's whatever, this guy's that, but it is important to showcase your characters, and having them only exist at Mythic Rare, where you might never ever get one, is not really a good way to do that.
Yeah, like, I actually heard the best quote for me for the reason Planeswalkers are awesome is you can never write a novel about Tarmogoyf.
That's true. You don't dream about being Tarmogoyf. If you're a kid, but you're like, Jace, that's awesome. That's how I imagine myself if I was in Magic. That's what I would be like.
Nice. Deviant from the questions, and I don't have to include this or whatever, but do you have any thoughts on Jace the Mind Sculptor and how he's the most awesomely awesome thing ever? Sort of excited. Are you happy with how they turned out?
Well, I'm never happy when one thing is kind of runaway bananas. We kind of had suppressed blue in the metagame quite a bit, knowing that as World Wake was going through the design and development, one thing the creative team was like, no, this Jace has to be awesome. We knew the previous Jace was just fine. He was very good. He was played in fairies, all sorts of other decks. And I was like, okay, well, this one has to be awesome. And we knew we were going to do the 4 ability gimmick on him, and he was going to be the only Planeswalker in the set. And we made him about as good as we can make a Magic card, to be honest with you. And so we hit those goals. And I think blue was at a nice spot where it could, it really appreciated a card of that power level, and kind of put it back on the map as a real color. And then, now is it too good? Maybe. I mean, it might be the combination of Jace plus the cantrip creatures and stuff is making life a little rough for, beat down right now, which, we're keeping our eye on it. I don't think the card's a mistake by any means. In fact, I think it did everything we wanted it to do. So happy so far. We'll see a year from now if I'm still saying that.
Well, I mean, it sort of feels like Jund. You know what I mean? Like Jund was so everywhere and blah 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 and bigger than fairies and yada yada, and then here comes Jace and Wall of Omens, and then now it's all switched. Now it's all Jace and Wall of Omens, and it's everywhere, and people are upset about it and yada yada. So, are you happy with sort of how Jund turned out now that it's sort of ending its cycle soon?
Yes. I mean, I don't. It's like Mike Flores put it great when he said it's kind of the least offensive boogeyman of all time. Like, yes, it was the best deck, and I can't really tell if the way Magic works right now with all the internet activity and all the Magic Online play, if like when one deck becomes as big as Jund, it's because most people don't care to try to find an answer to it. They're just happy building that and playing it, and they don't like. For me, Magic is a game of exploration and change, and it's funny how many people I meet that aren't interested in either of those things. They just want to like latch onto a deck and iterate it until it is perfect, and they're happy to play that every day of their life for the next year and a half, as long as none of the cards rotate out. And I dislike that. I have no interest in doing that myself. Or if it's because it's so perfect that everyone has worked on Jund for 9 months, 10,000 people have figured out how good it is. It's a crazy world we live in now compared to when I was playing, back in Mirage and Tempest, where like there'd be a deck that no one in this city ever heard of, and you could just roll into town and win the PTQ because no one in the town ever heard of it. Now everything's tight, everything's perfect. I think decks are the best 75 they could possibly be out of the entire card pool now at a way higher percentage than ever before, and it just makes it hard for decks that are perfect to get knocked off when new cards come out, because it takes a long time to iterate the new deck up to the point where it can beat the old deck, and I just think that's where we're at right now. So am I happy Jund is where it is? Yeah, it dominated for a few months, people got sick of it, and then they found the answers. I think that's the best we can hope for now.
So does that make you sort of try to design better silver bullets?
Yes, that's something we've talked about a lot in R&D. More volcanic fallouts, more core firewalkers, more cards. Like, if this gets out of hand, we can make this instead. Then people can look to this and say, okay, we're going to bring this in to fight this one thing, and hopefully that'll clear out some of the problems. There isn't one of those for Jund right now. There is one we hope does this in M11. I don't think, Jund just got beat out by better cards, I think, eventually with Wall of Omens, Jace, Vengevine, Gideon, things like that. But it was just like, what would even beat Jund? What could we even make? And we're like, we'd have to make some kind of paladin invect that we never got to a great answer until the one that Eric made for M11. I don't even know if it's necessary now, the way the metagame goes. But yes, we tried to identify problems, put in cards that beat them, so that you don't get locked into this one and a half deck metagame. And we also tried to just make more cards good. Back in the days like Psychotog, Wild Mongrel, there were only about 20 great cards in Standard. The rest of them weren't good enough. You'd have two, 3 decks. We hope there's tools out there to build a bunch of decks. And even though there is that, they still all gravitate towards the top 2 or 3 decks, but a lot of these are only 1 or 2 cards away from being able to be the next best thing. And you just got to keep trying to keep giving people options.
Absolutely. Were you happy with the Pro Tour San Juan decks, the block constructed stuff? Were there any surprises there? I guess the Beastmaster Ascension turned out to be the best deck, which I think is cool.
Yeah, I love that. No, we talked about, should we even be running block? It's one of those formats that no one plays unless we make them. Like, online it's different. People play block because they've drafted a bunch of Zendikar and now they want to dabble in constructed. So block does pretty well on there. People that are just getting into the platform and they only own 1 year's worth of cards. In paper, if you look at the numbers, no one plays it. It's like there's not going to be a block tournament ever unless we make it a PTQ format. So we're like, so why would we run this? And I think the goal is to kind of give you a sneak peek into what next year's Standard could be. Like, if a Lara block didn't exist, what could you build out of Zendikar that might be new and different? And we were worried it was just going to be blue-white control versus land ramp versus vampires or whatever, but and then mono-red obviously got good enough too. But the green deck was awesome. It was awesome. It did exactly that. I think there's people looking into that for Standard now, and ooh, maybe I could play all these Spawn Makers and Beastmaster's Ascension, and that's a real deck. And I don't know how good it does right now in Standard, but a year, once a Lara block rotates out and it might be good enough, and that's the goal. Get the juices flowing. Show me what the next new hotness might be.
That's awesome. All right, so what is your favorite card in Standard and why?
I think my favorite card right now in Standard is Elspeth, Knight Errant. It kind of does everything that you can imagine a Planeswalker should do. It's just all upside. It's got 2 pluses, and it does these little things. You're like, that's not great. Make a 1/1, whatever. Like Garrick makes 3 3s. It's like Angelic Blessing is the second ability. I know that's terrible. So this card, and then make all your stuff indestructible. That's obviously something for children to do. But it just comes together this awesome package. It's such a threat. It can play offense. It can play defense. It just feels like a very noble card. And you throw in all kind of decks, aggro, control, just does all kind of great stuff.
Yeah.
And it's going to be in a dual deck coming out soon to make it even easier to get your hands on one.
Yeah, which is crazy, by the way. I love that. Alternate art for the shiny.
Yep.
So fantastic. And all right, so the question that I perplexed the pros with this time was a recall plus X life. When does X become too much?
Recall plus this additional cost to pay
some amount
of life to cast this.
And
or
then
is it too much? I think 9 is, I would look at it, maybe play that. I know 10 is too much. I want to cast it twice in the game. I don't know. 7 to 9, somewhere in there, I think, for me.
Mm-hmm.
Don't expect us to ever make this card. It's obviously just the most random thing ever. It's like, so you're playing against someone with a lot of bolts? This is terrible. If you're playing against someone who's just playing a bunch of elves and stuff, or counter spells, it's insane. So, it's got to be somewhere in there.
Yeah.
It's a thought experiment, nothing else. So don't think this is Evan found out something and he's asking us the answer.
And that's all I wanted to do. Just a thought experiment,
right.
And
it is a good one. It is a good one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you can ask a question about you draw 2 cards. How many life would you pay for that?
I love the Eric Lauer one. If you removed all the card
Eric
draw.
Lauer's version of this question, once he heard Evan's question on the Magic Show, was, how about we take out all the card drawing out of Standard except Divination, and now make you pay life for that? How much life are you willing to pay to draw 2 cards for 3 mana as a sorcery? And we said maybe 3. Maybe you're going to pay 3 life. That's the only way you get an extra card. That it might be worth it. So,
and that's what I said.
People want extra cards, and they should be willing to pay for them.
That's awesome. So, what would you describe the Eric Lauer experience as being?
The Eric Lauer experience, something we joke about in R&D. It's kind of like repeated shuffling for just tiny incremental gain. It's like, this card makes me shuffle every turn. And just can I do it because I might draw 1 less land, lower my land drawing percentage by 1% each turn, and so I add 15 minutes onto the game. We try to avoid it. We even talked about we shouldn't do the fetch lands in Zendikar because it's just going to be, you watch some of these guys play extended when they're playing Dark Zoo or whatever, where fetch land shuffle guy, opponent fetch land shuffle guy, and it's like it's turn 3 and we're 11 minutes into the round, and that isn't great. That is not great, especially when you throw in tops and all these other things you care about the top of your library. Now Jace brainstorms. It's like, is this really what we want to sign up for? It's like, I should do this because it's math wise is correct and I want to win, but at the same time I hate it. Like, Eric won't even put fetch lands in his mono red decks in the FFL. He's like, my deck could be better. I'm not shuffling,
Really?
If I win X percent, we know it would really be a little bit more than that, but I'm not doing this because it's just so painful. And it's just, we just waste too much time. Like, we could test more if we didn't do that. So, something we have to be conscious of. Like, Sea Beyond almost got killed for the same reason. Just, it shuffles your deck. This is terrible. It shuffles. Just put it on the bottom, but the goal was to hide your Eldrazi to draw them later. And if I put them on the bottom, then I know I would never get it. And I want to have the dream of, top decking them at the right moment. So, every card that shuffles goes through this. Is this really worth it? Is this really worth it? But so trying to cut down on it, but not get rid of it.
Absolutely. So, how do you feel about Planeswalkers as they are now? And so, we were looking the other day, and it's like literally almost 98% of the decks that are in any tournaments listings have Planeswalkers in them, and that seems to be a good thing for me.
Yeah, I actually had a our web team alter our deck list display to include Planeswalkers as their own category instead of lumping them in with spells just last week, because I felt like I want to see, creatures are important, Planeswalkers are important. So, I mean, I think they're really, really good. They've had some unintended consequences. We were just talking about this in development the other day, that black has a real hard time now, because black used to be able to just kill the permanents your opponents, the win conditions your opponent would be deploying. Like, okay, what did you play? I'll terror it. What did you play? I'll edict you. I'll damnation, whatever. But now that there's Planeswalkers, and black deals in life loss and minuses and all these other things, and edicts and terrors, it's just like, okay, Elspeth, okay, I can't kill that. And, it might be why Vampires has a tough time. Just black control, I think, is going to have a hell of a time being good as long as there's these 12, 10, 12 Planeswalker decks. We're going to find some way to increase that interaction a little better. I don't know that I like the Carlos Romao 15 Planeswalker deck that much, because it's just such it's Magic just in this other crazy direction where it's like, I thought we were going to be attacking and blocking. Instead we're like just generating seas of effects every turn, and it's just so much free card advantage. So I kind of like it when a deck has a focal Planeswalker. The Nissa deck has Nissa. It uses Nissa to this effect. Barely Boros runs a Johnny Vengeance out there to some good effect, but all the rest of it is pretty normal stuff. So I think we just gotta spread them out, not like make all the white ones really sick, so they all go together. Maybe if Sorin was a little better, and maybe if Gideon was a little worse. I don't know, that maybe would be in a better spot for me. Still feeling it out. We're only a couple years in, and every one of them is this whole new puzzle. How good is this set of abilities? No idea. I don't want to know what it's like. What if it could attack? I don't know. How good is that? I have no idea. But I'm not unhappy with where they're at. I'd be unhappy if they were all bad and you just set them aside and we're like, that is not how you win. I'm happy that they are, A+, everyone loves them, they're powerful. Now the specifics, they could use some work, and we're working through it.
Absolutely. How do you feel about Vengevine? Vengevine feels like a card that you would not have printed 4 or 5 years ago. But now, and one of the things that Van Lunen said, I think it was in the Grand Prix video, was that you need hasty things to deal with Planeswalkers. And I think that's sort of the most important thing that Vengevine does, is it gets through Wall of Omens, but most importantly, it can kill Jace and things immediately.
Right. No, we know haste is definitely a weapon. If you want to hole up and play a Planeswalker and not get hit by creatures, it's pretty easy to do that, unless you're facing, creatures with great enter the battlefield effects or haste. And Matt Place, the developer for Rise, really wanted Vengevine there. If he was going to print Wall of Omens, he really didn't want just attacking to be cold by Wall of Omens, Wraths, and Paths, and I think the card's a little nuts. I don't like. Would I change it in retrospect? I don't know. Maybe. Like, that one sets my alarms off when I see it and I play against it, and you were still playing against it in the FFL. It's like, oh yeah, I wasn't thinking about Vengevine when I built this deck. Now I'm dead. Like, so it is a crazy card. It is crazy powerful, and it's one of those things we're gonna have to make sure we have stuff that deals with it in the future, because I don't want it to be the metagame to be Vengevine and then anti-Vengevine and then anti-Vengevine with Vengevines in it. But it does what it's supposed to do. And I think it does a lot more than that too.
Right. Absolutely. All right. And so lastly, the thoughts on combo decks and things, sort of how combo has been lessened over time. And so it's not, people used to say that rock, paper, scissors, aggro, control, and combo. And now it's sort of like aggro, control, and mid-range. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but it feels like that's the push.
Like, combo decks, for us, they're a great spectacle. Like, when they show up, open the vaults, time Civ, wins, finish nationals, and everyone talks about it. Seismic Swans wins a Grand Prix, everybody talks about it. Or Niels Vian, or whatever his name was, made the top 8 with another different Open the Vaults deck that had Filigree Angels in it. Like, what? Those are great, and we want combo to be like that, where they get to prey on an unsuspecting metagame. Like, you found something and people aren't ready to fight you on that axis. They have all their Wraths and Paths and bolts, and instead you're doing this thing, and suddenly no one's ready to beat you. And it's a great story, and you deserve to win when you come up with those kind of things. But then it should be like, oh, so all I really need to do is put Relic of Progenitus in my sideboard, and I can't lose to that anymore.
Yeah.
Because the problem is with combo, is that a lot of players, that is not at all how they envision Magic, and they build their decks and they want to interact with you in a certain way. And it's not, I don't want to say we're like catering to the lowest common denominator, but I mean, as people come up through the ranks, they kind of expect Magic to be about the same as they get, as they climb through. And it should be like, no, well, once you get to this level, attacking is dumb, and now we're going to win this way. Like, this is how you really win at Magic. That's just bad for us. I do think creature-based metagames are the way to go. I do think most people enjoy it. I think your skills from limited translate better to constructed. I think your skills from playing casual translate better to constructed. And I just think if I were to wanted to show someone Magic and say, this is Magic, it has a Pro Tour, here's what it looks like, that seeing an angel fighting a vampire is good for us, not some crazy thing that I cannot explain to you what's going on here. It's ridiculous. He's doing this loop where he generates +1 of something every turn, and at the end of it he's going to do this, which is going to run his opponent out of cards. It's like, no, I don't think that's exactly what we want. But it should have a place. It should surprise people. It should win tournaments. It should not be a pillar of the metagame where your deck's not ready to beat combo, then you're going to lose all the time. That should just not be the case.
Always like the fatties.